Nick, I don't know if you know this, man, but this is the basically 6 month mark of the show, episode 26. So if you're going week by week, this is the 26th week of the show. How do you feel, man?
I think I'm like you. I can't believe we're actually, doing as well as we are.
Yeah.
That's probably how we both feel.
Yeah.
And we just thought it was two guys, shooting the shit about cars, and that's kind of what we tried to keep it. And we can't thank everybody enough. I mean, we got to keep saying that.
Yeah. Who would have thought that the world needed some simplicity and maybe a little bit of honesty splashed with a couple of Big Johnson dick jokes from time to time on the show?
For everybody that remembers the Big Johnson T-shirts.
I did not until Nick reminded me of this, and then I went down this rabbit hole of pieces of art that reminded me what it was in the late 90s.
Oh, so good.
Dude, crazy. I can't believe that was as
And
popular
by
as
the
it
way,
was.
people just walked around.
Unbelievable.
Let me
That
get
was
two Miller Lights.
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
in
yeah.
the, right in the Big John.
But at the same time, you got kids in sixth grade being like, "You gotta suck it,"
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, we really grew up in a wild time.
Yeah, I mean, WCW and WWF were still around. I mean,
Monday Night Wars,
you had
brother.
backyard wrestling where they had barbed wire on the ring and people would jump off. I mean,
What
wild times.
what a heyday. And now we've gone from that to basically talking about two-door battery trucks on the road.
From badass backyard wrestling to Slate
Batteries.
two-door trucks.
Dude, we had so many people. I should say I had people send me Doug DeMiro's video on this, and I want to get into that. But before we even get into any other, carfluencers, which I'm going to keep using that word because people were starting to use it in the comments, and I was like, oh,
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
whether for better or for worse, whatever you're calling us, whether it's in a good way or bad way, I like it. But there were two overarching themes to the Slate conversation, and we're almost caught up with the amount of volume we've been putting out with reels and shorts, which is great. People are liking them, interacting with where we are week to week on the podcast. And cost of the Slate truck was a huge thing, and then
Yep.
also the range was probably the second, big argument for it. And I think you had a couple of exchanges too with people that kind of just wanted to argue the price for the sake of price.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody has a right to, and look, we're the kind of guys that I think Doug's one of the few guys doing it right.
Yeah,
I mean,
for
I'll just
sure.
be out and say it. Let's make sure we say that. So this is not Doug's opinion is the opinion that a lot of people have. So this is not Doug specific, since we did say his name.
Mm-hmm.
There's a very big fallacy about price. Okay, so let's start there. Guys, the only thing we've ever said is we need smaller, more affordable trucks, preferably single cab, because you have a lot of business owners, you have a lot of individuals that are tired of being forced into these $35,000 to $45,000 trucks that they don't need. Mm-hmm. Now, that is not Nick and Rob's opinion in a vacuum. So you guys are going to hear the word vacuum a lot today.
Yeah.
Because everybody seems to be very good at creating their own vacuum to have a conversation. Ford Mavericks are $26,995, and no, they aren't.
No, you even asked me this. I know one person.
Yeah. So here's the deal. You and I know people that own massive plumbing companies, massive construction companies, parts delivery companies, dealerships for runners. We talked to everybody this week as people were starting to have a misunderstanding of our opinion. We all need to cheer Slate on, because if Slate has even a little bit of success, it could bring the price down and get car manufacturers like Ford, Chevy, Toyota to build smaller, more affordable, quick buy trucks, which is all we've really been saying this whole time. So let's talk about the price carrot, which you came up with.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's give credit where credit's due.
Hey, thanks. Hey, every once in a while, I get a little bit of credit.
Yeah. I mean, this is a great way of looking at it. What people do is they go on the internet and go, Mavericks are 27 grand. Okay. Between Rob and I contacting people that buy thousands of trucks between us this week, we found one person who got a Ford Maverick for $27,000.
And that was the
And
last
we have-
person, by the way. That was the last person who's going to
That was the last person.
Yeah.
So 6 or 7 shops down from me, a guy, they do some like hand-built stuff as a company. I noticed because we got sent something about Maverick. I go, oh, there is a base Maverick. I had never even looked at it before, right? I just hit the brakes, swing in there. I'm like, I don't know these people. They're going to think I'm weird, but I'm just going to give them the story. So that's what I did, Rob.
What?
And let me ask
You
you a
swing the
question.
LX in there? Or would you swing it
Oh,
there?
yeah. Yeah, yeah. So just swinging, dude. I was
Yeah.
like, okay. I mean, and it's got bigger tires, so it makes like that skipping
Just chirping.
screech sound. When you hit the brakes real hard.
Yeah.
So I go in, I go, hey, you guys don't know me. I'm just a little bit down the road, a couple shops down here. You guys have your door open, so you make some cool stuff in here. Got to ask you about this Maverick, though. About a 65-year-old guy. Seems like he's bought himself a lot of trucks. He
Nice.
goes, love to talk about it.
Ooh.
Walks me out to the Maverick. I said, man, this nice little truck. He goes, yeah. He goes, I saw it online, so I could go get myself a truck for 26 grand. So I walked down, I drove myself down to the dealership. We were going to buy one of these. I said, well, how much you end up paying for it? Just if you don't mind me asking. I have a car podcast. He's like, oh, I like podcasts. I listen to obviously it was what old guys listen to. So a lot of political stuff.
My
I'm
guy.
like, that's great, man. I said, people seem to think you can get these for $27,000. And he just busted out laughing. It's like, no, because you're not getting this for $26,000. He goes, and this is the bare bones one.
Oh, wow.
I said, what'd you end up paying? If you don't mind me asking. He goes, dude, you can't get one of these for under 32.
Yeah.
He goes, it's about 32 out the door. I said, cool. It's a great truck. He goes, yeah, man, we got a half ton over here, our Dodge that does our heavy lifting, but we didn't need another half ton. Then he starts telling me about all the big and small trucks he's owned for his business over the years. And this is a guy that is like 99.9% of buyers out there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? If he's going to buy a second truck, if he's, got cars and he just wants a truck to get around to Home Depot on the weekends, the vast majority don't need a half ton all the time. They just don't want to pay for it either, but they end up doing it because that is the game.
Yep.
So when people go, well, you can get a Maverick for $27,000, nobody hardly can get them. Okay? Even guys that are willing to buy 50 of them on a fleet deal are still having trouble getting them in a timely manner.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to understand when people say stuff in a vacuum about pricing, we have to bring that up. Slate is talking about, again, with incentive, that we can get into a truck for $19,500. That's still $8,000 under what you can get into a Maverick. I'm not saying that the Slate is perfect. We never said that. But everybody's got to stop with the vacuum price conversation. Like, there's a 4Runner for $49,000. What are you guys talking about? The most ones they sell and that people want are 60 to 80 grand. So bringing up the $48,000 one is not worthy of doing because they sell like 2 a year.
I think it's too fun online to just, have your argument ready. Like it's in the chamber, it's locked and loaded, ready to
Exactly.
go. Like you just want to make the argument to make the argument. Where I think the internet was more fun, kind of weird to look back on it, where people used to make response videos to things in a much more like back and forth. Like you said what you said. I'm going to kind of debate you a bit through this video format, which I guess it's kind of what this all transformed into. But the mentality of the people online, which is a lot of everyone listening, like we've all kind of grown up with the internet for the most part.
Agreed.
But now it's like it's locked and loaded, ready to go. Whereas if everybody understood or went back, let's revert back to going back and reading what nuance is a little bit more and understanding what the nuance of these conversations is supposed to be, it would be more fun. And honestly, that's what we're trying to do with the podcast because I made a list of things that as I was listening to Doug and a couple of other bigger creators that people would know just because it's in the car world, not him specifically again, but they were making the same arguments that I think in a vacuum, to take Nick's phrase, that was his word of the day the other day on the phone call with him, are doing, and that is like the market, right? Well, we've had a couple of videos go viral about cars in the market when we were growing up, let's just say in our high school parking lots, where all these nostalgic cars we keep talking about. That market has shifted, and cyclically, it'll continue to shift. I think that Slate will be one of the things that, if done right, like Nick said last week, if it's rolled out correctly, could change the entire narrative of, and this was the third big thing that I didn't mention because I wanted to put it right here, parents were saying, my kid would love this, or this would be perfect for my kid. Well, if you look back in the 90s to now, there aren't a lot of things like Slate, or at least what Slate presents to you on paper, could be cool to see in parking lots. Now, are they like the same kind of cool sporty cars? No, but again, it could shift the entire narrative for all car companies.
Yeah, and again, you went to a high school. I'm sure you saw a lot of S10s. You saw a lot of Ford Rangers. You saw a lot of early Tacomas that hung around. All we're saying, guys, is Don't be the person that goes, you can get a Maverick for 27. I called everybody I know. It's like trying to find guys that can get single cab F-150s or single cab Silverados. Not easy to get your hands on. Okay? They're not easy. So when people go, well, everybody wants a crew cab. Okay, let's dissect that.
Let's.
Here's the problem I have. At this point in time in my career, and the people you have connections, I've been responsible for thousands of vehicle purchases. Directly responsible. For those that aren't in that world and they're just commentating in that world, or they're just having a thought in that world, or they're just listening to the internet in that world from a bunch of people that don't have that experience, they go, well, the data shows that nobody wants a single cab truck. Why would that be? Because the crew cab is $36,000 and the single cab is $34,000 and some change. If the crew cab was $38,000 and the single cab was $28,000 like it should be, guess what they would magically sell more of?
For sure.
The single cab. Mm-hmm. Now, called a construction buddy of mine who buys hundreds of trucks. It's the largest construction company, one of the largest probably in the United States, like just as a private owner that's not publicly traded. Think he knows a little bit about buying some trucks. So I said to him, walk me through why I see so many crew cabs in your lot. And he gave the old, when somebody wants to say something, he goes, oh, buddy. And I go,
how much time do you have?
Yeah, he goes, look, years ago when I started my construction company, once in a blue moon, somebody would have an extended cab. Usually like a supervisor, a foreman, whatever would get, an extended cab.
Those cab and a halves, man. That's where they were at.
So then he goes, crew cabs became a little bit more popular. And then the superintendent, the foreman, I'd get them the crew cab. And then everyone else on a job site would have a single cab. He goes, and actually it helps you when you walk on the job site because you could identify where everybody was in the hierarchy of who to talk to and whatever.
Yeah.
He goes, dude, I have probably one of the best relationships with multiple dealerships in town because I buy so many vehicles. They always try to help me, quote unquote. He goes, dude, I would have to wait forever to buy as many single cabs as I'd try to buy crew cabs. He goes, so I buy crew cabs. The price doesn't make sense on the single cab, number one. And it upsets my guys. But if it upset my guys and I go, dude, I'm saving $10,000, $12,000 a truck, so be quiet. He goes, they'd never say another word. But these guys are in on, buying the trucks because they buy them for themselves through the company. And he's like, hey, for $2,000 or $3,000 more, I can just get a better truck for the company and it's going to have a better resale value in this. So there is no reason to buy the single cab. You want to know why? And let's get into this, Rob. Mm-hmm. Behaviorally, these companies are bringing in consumer behavior psychologists, psychiatrists to go, how do we get people to buy what we want them to buy? For all those people that think the dealer plays games, the manufacturer is the one that starts the game. It isn't the dealer that starts the game, it's the manufacturer. They specifically don't want to build a bunch of single cabs. So magically, the pricing structure they set into the market is pushing people behaviorally to the crew cab, including large companies that would rather not. And I know you have experience with this. Parts runners and different things around the world of industry would love a simple single cab, a smaller truck, a half ton, doesn't matter. But they can't get them.
Yeah, and I mentioned this to Nick too, like what, because I had a saved listing for single cabs. I just like a lot of different kind of things, and it's silly what some of us guys will just kind of save as a reminder of like, hey, let's.
Yeah, it's just what we want to look at.
Yeah, it's like why do I have a dozen of these cars that I have saved? Hey,
and why do I have so many tabs open on my?
Oh, dude, so many. So the single cab's one of them, and especially the 5.0. I just really like the F-150s, and I told Nick the other day there's like 1,100 of them in the country, and you look at the prices, and they are. I mean, for the 5.0 with the 4-wheel drive and the short bed, the ones people want, the occasional long bed, you're only a couple thousand, and I say only because most people are financing, looking at the payment per month. They're almost not, pretty much, they don't care at all if they roll in another $2,000-$4,000 when you're going to get the crew cab and the whole thing. Like, why would you not, right? That's the way it is
it's
laid out
behavior.
for you.
It's
Yes.
behavior.
And I told Nick when I was a parts runner, so I worked for a couple of logistics companies for most of my early 20s. And that's how I put 400,000+ miles on my Ranger. And we'll get into the range talk about the Slate. But in general, those trucks ended up just like they would get people to the lot and you would see them just work them. They would ascend them up the ladder of the cars. That's what they're sold to do. Move the metal, right? So if you come in
And by
wanting
the
the
way,
single
that's not
cab,
the dealer who starts that. That is the
no.
manufacturer pricing that
Yeah.
starts the dealer on that level to get you to keep upgrading.
Yep, and that's where the sales training essentially goes
Yes.
to. Like, how do you ascend them up these ladders? And anyway, long story short, those trucks ended up just turning into parts trucks. A lot of the times now, more of these people have brought them indoors. Like back in the day, I worked for Chevy and GM's, like not them, but let's just say a department of their logistics that had runners all around the city of Houston, and those trucks would just inevitably become a part of the fleet. And then eventually they stopped working with 3PLs, and then they brought it all in house. So a lot of those trucks
Yes.
they had in a lot ended up just becoming shop trucks. What the fuck? Wow, what a crazy thought, right? That they were going to end up
Yes.
using those for that.
Yeah. And again, that doesn't make any of this right and wrong.
Yeah,
You
it
know,
just is what it is.
that's what I think is what I want to always get across to people. When you actually are responsible and you're around the car business and you start to, number one, talk to more educated people than you in the car business, people that have been in it 30 or 40 years and they're now at a high level executive and they're walking you through why things happen. That's invaluable. We seem to have lost wanting to talk to people that have more experience than us.
Yeah, because they're locked and loaded, bro. They're ready to go with
Yeah,
their argument.
but and by the way, this is happening on, car podcasts or, if you're into
Business.
lawn care, if you're into
Yeah.
business, if you're into whatever, everybody thinks like, I got the perfect answer. I'm just going to go buy a $27,000 Maverick and that makes Slate stupid. And it's like, guys, that's not the conversation. You think that's the conversation, right? Because everyone, and I talked to a bunch of dealers this week and people that I respect at those dealers who are decision makers, they weren't talking about Slate the way everyone else was. They're like, hey, we're starting to hear rumblings that maybe we'll get some more cheap Mavericks on our lot. That maybe the Colorado will start to build some cheaper options. Guys, that's a good thing.
Hell yeah.
Those are the things that we see, and I guess let me take some blame on my own shoulders here. What I saw from the Slate thing was that it was going to start a conversation with the other manufacturers of giving people what they want, which is a little bit more watered down version of these smaller trucks to get people to buy a $22,000 Maverick eventually, right? If that's what happens, for all of you that bash Slate, you missed the point of the whole conversation. Nobody is saying Slate is perfect. I certainly don't think it's the perfect option. I think it's an option to get us talking about this is what people have been wanting secretly for a long time. How do I get a third truck in my business? I don't want an F-150 that costs me $39,000.
Yep.
I don't want that. I'll pay it, right? I'll do it because I need the third truck. But if I could get a $25,000 for real Maverick, $24,000, man, I'd be ecstatic and I would keep that forever. And it just, like you said, it would just kind of be this thing that was around my business for the next 10, 15 years. That isn't what's been happening, okay? What's been happening is the consumer behavior has been manipulated from the manufacturer through through the car influencer world that you talk, the carfluencer and all that kind of stuff, where we just say we have to accept that you got to buy a crew cab F-150 when you want a truck.
Yeah, no, I don't like that at all because it's just not the case. Again, taking a step back and you kind of see how it's all kind of unfolded over the last 2 decades, 3 decades. It's kind of wild to see because the arguments also of back then, all of the failed two-doors. Sure, there's a large example of it, right? But cyclically, as things have changed into the bigger cars altogether, bigger SUVs, four-door stuff, you start seeing the interest because of the way that everything costs now. That everything has also inflated price-wise, inflation-wise, and whatever. The thought of, hey, in the comments you'll see too of a variety of carfluencer type shows I'd love a two-door. I don't care about crank windows. Like, I just need simplicity. And a lot of those guys too, they'll say, and you said the same thing. It keeps the miles off my weekend warrior. It takes the miles off of whatever, even if it's not for work purposes. For personally, I've known people that reduced the amount of cars they had because it didn't make financial sense with the insurances and the fuel costs and then
Yeah.
racking up miles. So now the wife can have what she has. You can keep the weekend warrior in the garage, and you can have something like doesn't have to be Slate. Again, we're saying it could open up the door to more of these affordable daily drivers. And
Yep.
the now to lead into the range that people were saying, like, oh, you got to pay extra. You're talking about it's going to be just under $30,000 if you need more than that. That's a whole nother topic, right? You can get into the range, what your thoughts are on the range. For fleet trucks, too, like 150 miles is silly. It would have to be more if you wanted to just maybe target fleets for starters, because I used to go all over Houston, but from NRG where the Texans played to Katy is 30 miles one way. And I would do
Yes.
four routes a day, sometimes 5, all the way up to the Woodlands, all the way down to Galveston. You'd need at least, I was told Nick,
Yeah, I mean, if you go Woodlands to Central Houston, I mean,
yeah, 4 times a day, right? 5 times a day.
yeah.
That's a lot.
That's not going to work. So again, we've said a few things realistically about Slate. A, you don't really know what's going to go into production until production's here.
And they're
By the way,
well-funded.
that's what's that?
They're well funded. They're
And they're
well
well
funded. So they
funded.
probably will go to production.
Okay, so just like we see with all of these Jeep, Ford, Chevy, they go to a car show, they show you a car, they do an unveiling. What goes into production ain't what you saw at the unveiling.
Yeah.
Okay? Now we're going to throw that out the window with Slate. Because Slate, we can't hold Slate to that standard that we're okay with Chevy, showing us a truck, and then that's not exactly what we get when it comes production time. So now we're going to hold Slate to a different standard, right? This is what they showed us. This is what it's going to be. That's not how any of this works.
Yeah.
Slate has a lot of things to get figured out, which is what we said. When I look at 150-mile range, I didn't think that's what was going to get to production.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? My guess is they're going to find a way to try to eke themselves somewhere between 200 and 225 miles of range for that 27 or 26.5 with the $7,500 credit. And I want to say this again. Their whole business model is betting on that credit's not going anywhere.
Right.
Okay? So they will adjust if that credit goes away, right? It's pretty safe to say all manufacturers adjust if the credit goes away. So stop holding Slate to a standard. You're not holding Toyota. You're not holding Chevy. You're not holding Ford. You're not holding BMW. You're not holding anybody to any of these standards because none of them are talking about getting you to walk out the door with a $19,000 truck. None of them. Okay? So there is no standard for what Slate is doing. But I also kept saying, let's see what happens when they get this thing to the finish line because there's an equal 50-50 chance they never produce a truck. Period.
So we have a couple of the listener, again, clutchculturepodcast@gmail.com. Thanks to everybody that has submitted emails. We're going to try to get through a couple of them throughout today's episode, but this one comes to mind because I had them all condensed too. I sent Nick the full version, so Nick read all of y'all's emails. Not necessarily that they were questions, but some of them were just really good stories or really good, just topics to talk about. But we had a Z had said, here's your summary. Says Slate truck only looks good because the market is terrible. EV drawbacks, hidden cost of home charging. Says it's not a good deal without the tax incentives. That's kind of what we've been talking about.
And by the way, that's like 90% of EVs are not a great deal without the incentive. I mean, come on. Again, this is vacuum speak, right? We got to keep saying that. Guys, we don't live in a vacuum. None of us. The car business, the car world, the enthusiast car world, all of this stuff, none of this is a vacuum. So you got to take it in totality of what could this inspire other car companies to do? That's a topic of conversation. Okay. And by the way, that's a big topic of conversation. That's not a little part of it. If we can actually go to the Ford dealership and pick up a $26,000 Maverick because they actually produce more because Slate might come to the table, fantastic.
Yeah.
Slate was worth happening. Who cares what happens to Slate at that point? Now you have actual $26,000 Mavericks I can go buy, which, by the way, we're going to have somebody comment, we're going to have somebody ask or tell us a story and go, well, I got one. Again, 1% to 2% are getting the $26,000 Maverick. The other
Yeah.
98% are paying somewhere between $31,000 and $35,000 for their Maverick. So if I say $33,000 on average to split the difference, and I can get this for $19,500, what was the use of having the $26,000 conversation when we knew that wasn't happening on a broad scale?
Your neighbor down the strip there, do you know if he has the 2-liter EcoBoost or the hybrid in his Maverick?
I forget.
Damn, I wonder if I always wonder like what people enjoy more. You know, the towing capacity of the 2
Here's the
liter.
thing, man. He looked at me and he's had it. I think he told me he's had it 6 months. He's like, this is the best truck we've had in a long time.
Yeah, everyone that I know that has one, and not like I told you, only one that got them for that really cheap price. They do like it. Like it's a really enjoyable car to just whip around town. Like every little errand they have to run, they get that vehicle over anything else. Like it's
Yeah, and
just,
here's what he said. He goes, you don't realize this, and I know people are going to think this is dramatic, but this is a 65-year-old guy telling me this. He's like, this thing's easy to park.
yeah, that's the first thing they say, dude.
He's like, the Dodge Ram 1500 we have here. He goes, I've been driving it for so many years, I didn't realize how big of a headache was it to park. He's like, I'm getting old, so I can park closer to the Home Depot. I can park closer to the places we need to go for business. And look, man, we all still love an F-150. We all still love the 1500 Ram. We all still love the Silverado. Okay, those all have their place. All we're saying is we're talking about a segment that I think a lot of us, I'd probably have right now, if I look at my business, I have 6 half-ton trucks, okay? I could replace half those right now if I knew Ranger was reliably available at a good price. Maverick, Ranger, I could go, meaning I probably would have never bought those. I would have bought something like an S10, a Ranger, a Maverick, whatever small truck. I would have probably had half. So now I've paid more in gas. Usually you pay more in insurance, okay, depending. And when I got to get brakes replaced, which I just did, brakes and rotors all the way around on a Toyota. By the way, Toyotas, you do have to replace the brakes and rotors. They don't last forever.
No, bro, come on, they last forever. You never have to take them to the shop.
Toyotas last forever. You don't even have, all I've ever done is an oil change. Oh, so
what
you
do I
didn't
care what the dealership lobby looks like? You know?
Yeah, you never got tires. You never had to get rotors and brakes. That's crazy.
By the way, that video's at like 600,000 on TikTok. It's still going, dude. Hilarious.
My Toyota just has to get oil changes. 300,000 miles. It's like, wow, I've had to replace brakes in my Toyota Tundras a lot.
I think we've made it around the world because we're back at the point where now we're seeing more people be like, no, this makes total sense. What is everybody in these comment sections talking about? Like all the crazies have already commented. The normal people are like, no, this makes total sense. Who's paying this for a Toyota? Tell me right now.
Yeah. So anyway, but you look at it. Look at the brakes, rotors, everything I just got done. I mean, we're right around $1,200. That was everything.
Just tires in general, too. Tires in general.
Yeah.
You usually have bigger wheels and tires on it.
Yeah. So you look at it and you go, there's a benefit to even a business owner like myself. If I take 3 half tons off the road and have 3 $25,000 Mavericks if they were available at that for real, I mean, it's a pretty big cost savings. And again, guys, we want to root these things on for here's what's happened with newcomers to the market.
Okay.
They've all built really expensive vehicles. Mm-hmm. Name me the newcomer that has stuck around, like Rivian has stuck around, Lucid's around, Tesla's obviously around. Name me one that has something that, in theory, I can get under 20 grand with the incentive. I don't have one.
Yeah, no.
So guess what? We're breaking into a new barrier here. Just like everybody rooted on the Model 3 and how affordable that became, this is the next evolution. So why are we not rooting it on? That seems strange to me. I mean, just call me crazy. That seems strange not to root that on. Again, range isn't perfect. This isn't perfect. That's not, I got you, man. But everything has been basically over 30 grand. Now we're talking about we can maybe, with incentive, get down below 20. I don't see why you wouldn't root that on. That seems crazy to me.
Yeah, and this is coming from a self-admitted EV hater for the longest time. I'm like, there's nothing that's convincing me. This finally has convinced me. It's brought me back more to the center of the conversation of like, yeah, this makes total sense for one of the many reasons we've talked about. And I'm glad you mentioned 1500s, Dodge, Chevy, GM, and all that. But before we do, if you are new to the show, this is the #1 automotive-related car podcast in the world. We talk about markets, trends, predictions, all the things we've already touched on in the first 20 minutes of the show. But most importantly, we give you a good hang every Monday, and this is the 26th episode, meaning we've been doing this for 26 weeks, kind of. We did our fiery dump at the beginning of December,
Yeah,
but
there we go.
we're on track for 6
For
months
those
here.
that weren't around, we called it the fiery dump. So
It
if you're
was a
new
fiery
here,
dump.
that's an actual joke. We're gonna
That
make
is
fiery
actual-
dump T-shirts.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. All right, look, 2026 Ram 1500 Express is back and it's replacing the outgoing 1500 Classic. We actually talked about this in earlier this quarter. Some of the cars that were going away, which I didn't know, this was one of them for Dodge, was going to be there. The V8, of course, and their Classic. Let me pull it up for you, and kind of touches on some of the things that we've talked about today. But it's going to start at 44. You can get it in a extended cab or quad cab or crew cab, as they call it. And the whole thing is we're coming in under the market. It's a more affordable truck for 1500 of this size, 44,495. And it's, got the V6, it's got 20-inch wheel, it's going to have the 3.6 liter V6, or you can opt for the low output, I think it says here. Yeah, the twin turbocharged 3
So
liter.
here's my question, because I haven't looked into this. Is this, you get this package, there's no upgrading it, this is it. So if you buy this, is this a package or is this like a whole new segment for them? Or they're just saying, hey, if you want the basic, come in and ask for the Express?
Come in and ask for the Express, but they are giving you a few options if you don't want between the two V6s, and then also if you're looking for a little extra visual flair, they say here that 1500 Express, it comes with a sports package. You can get a different hood, LEDs, 20-inch wheels.
Get you a sport hood on a $44,000 truck. Come on. So now we're all these extras are going to push the average price of this to 52. Mm-hmm. And so this kind of proves our whole point again.
Yeah.
Which is, I'm glad you do this kind of stuff.
44.
Yeah, but everybody on the internet will be like, oh, you can get one of these Rams for 44. It's like, that's not what people pay. Yeah. It's just not what people pay. And again, it's not because the dealer or the manufacturer is getting over on you. It's what they produce, and it's what you get pushed to by the pricing structure. Because for 44, if it's bare bones, for 48, if I can get even better, that's not hard for somebody to talk themselves into without a salesperson.
100%. And by the way, this infotainment is one of my favorite layouts. Like the knobs are big and nice. The 7-inch screen, 7 to 10, 7 to 9.5 is the best size for a screen.
But here's the thing: they were, and people will have to correct me if I'm wrong. They were the ones that did the first two, the top on top iPad, right?
Yeah. Were they?
I'm pretty sure they were pretty close to. I mean, in the truck world, I'm talking.
Yeah. You might be right. Actually, here's the price layout for you, real quick. I mean, we've got two.
So what did I say? I didn't even see this. 44. Yep. Then to almost 48. Mm-hmm. Then there's another one that's like 48 and some change, and then there's a 51 and some change.
51.95. So basically 52.
So let's be honest. You're going to fall somewhere probably around $48,000 to $49,000 out in the one that you pick. Yep. That's going to be the average price. So they go out in a vacuum and tell you there's a $44,000 crew cab from them in this Express package. That's not what people buy. So go to what's Rob's topic of the week, price carrot. There's the price carrot. This is what it says on the internet, but that is not what's going to happen in practicality on the dealership lot.
No, and you know what? You'd think they would do better because you can go. I keep using the example of the F-150 STX. That package is loaded. I mean, it is the sleeper of sleeper trucks with the 5-liter, 4-wheel drive. All of the 24s now and beyond have the XLT type package in even the lower trims for the infotainment. It's like a 12 or a 13-inch. It's loaded to what you would want. The seats aren't leather, whatever, that's fine. But it's what you want for under this price, and they're selling it to you as come in and you're going to get the most affordable truck at 44. Oh, it's 2-wheel drive. Oh, it's got that. Oh, like again, they're dangling.
So what's that Ford truck you were just talking about? What's that price?
That so the 24s they start at right now I should say also with the for America from America kind of thing, you can get them for the low 40s as well. In the pre-owned market, you can get them for already in the 30s, though, with only a couple thousand miles. Because a lot of them I saw, they were demo trucks.
Yes.
So they're already discounted at $10,000+. Why would you do that? And anyway, it's just silly.
So now you have a different conversation. You walk on a dealer lot. You go, I want to get a $26,000 Maverick, or I can buy a $33,000 or $34,000 with 2,000 miles on it. So now the dealer has made another $9,000 on you that you didn't expect to pay. And then everybody goes, well, the dealer got over on me. No, man, it's behavior.
Yeah.
The behavior is how we all work is, I'm looking at this tiny Maverick. Here's this cool truck over here. I pay a few more thousand. Doesn't matter that it's 10. You go a
Yeah.
few more thousand and I get this cool truck, I'm just going to pay the 10.
Yeah.
This isn't the dealer setting this up. This is coming from the manufacturer down.
Yeah.
They're setting you up with the thought process of what we want to push you to, right? Period, point blank, in the story. And like I said, I have this crazy thing, man, where I just want everyone to learn from us. It's like, if you want a Ford Maverick for 26, you're better off ordering it. And if they say you got to wait 6 months, you got to wait 6 months. That's the only way you're going to get it.
Yeah.
You're usually not going to get it walking on the dealer lot. I don't care how big the dealers are.
No, just like with most things, you have to know somebody, right? So someone's got to give you a heads up. Hey, we have this on a truck coming in about 60 days or whatever. Like, do you want to go ahead and pick it up now because it's going to be gone and no one's going to ever know.
That's exactly right.
It'll be sold before the trailer even drops it.
Yeah, so I'll give you an example. They're not bringing a ton of you remember those old vinyl floor, single cab, stripped down F-150s, Silverados, whatever it was.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what the construction company that I talked to said. The only way they get them is they get a warning. We have 20 incoming. How many do you want? He's like, I'll take all 20.
Yeah.
Or you get to December 15th and somehow they're sitting on 7, 10, whatever that they didn't expect. And they go, hey, we'll make you a hell of a deal if you take these before the end of the year off the lot. Yeah. He's like, that's the only way I'm getting them. Otherwise, at the end of the day, they're pushing me to crew cabs. And this guy doesn't have time to sit there and obsess over it. He's like, this is what they want to sell. This is what I buy. You rewind the clock 25 years ago. That's not what he was being pushed to. Things changed. That's fine. But he would still like to get a single cab. So again, to go back to the beginning, telling me that people don't like wagons is where this kind of conversation starts.
Yeah.
Subaru literally had profitable quarters for 20 straight years. But people don't want to buy wagons. People bought a lot of Outbacks. Those are wagons. I know people like to say they aren't. Those are wagons. Turns out when you sell a competent, well-priced wagon, Americans bought them. Mm-hmm. But people don't want wagons. No, they don't want wagons for $165,000. That it's the same thing with the truck, right? People don't want single cab. Well, if they were $10,000 less than the crew cab, like they should be, they would absolutely buy the single cab. But that's not what the manufacturers are doing.
Yeah, it's really interesting because if you like nerding out about this kind of stuff, I know that everyone listening notices everywhere. Like you notice in the parking lots at hardware stores or grocery stores, and you look at them and you're like, there's no way that everyone, because every truck's a crew cab. At the very least, sometimes there's an extended cab with a little cab and a half, but most of the time, all the moms, especially Mexicans. I know this because Mexicans love them a big truck. La Mamalona, it's cleaned up. They like taking it to the store. And you got this little bitty.
For those that have never watched the show, let's make sure we don't get into a race issue here. Rob is Mexican.
I am very Mexican.
so this isn't me making this joke, okay? I'm not, I just want everybody to understand.
Distinguish our voices on the audio-only version. But yeah, dude, I mean, that 20 years ago, I mean, also, back in the day, only diesels. Like, diesels were the only things that were allowed to really be four-door, and that was
that's a good point. Yeah.
Like, every rancher, my dad had 2 of them, at least, at any given moment, and everybody out there, like, that's what you had because it was purpose-built. It was really reasonable to have a 4-door diesel truck. And then all of a sudden, because the daily driver, quote-unquote, their work trucks were single cabs. I don't know how many Ford F-150 single cabs I had growing up. And then all of a sudden, I get into, middle school, high school, and then I start seeing, for me, dude, it was Dodge, funny enough. The wealthier ranchers got their sons the quad cab 1500 Dodges.
I tell you the weird thing for me was a transition. You probably feel the same way. Is when you started going to a dentist office and your dentist drove a crew cab.
It was a King Ranch. It was always a King Ranch.
Yeah, King Ranch. You're like, because it just wasn't around like that. I mean, everybody that's started thinking about trucks now, crew cabs are everywhere. Yeah. But I mean, like you said, you only saw select crew cabs for a lot of years. Then all of a sudden you're going to the post office and you're like, oh, there's my dentist. What's he driving? Oh my God, it's a crew cab.
But also the postmaster. Why the fuck's a postmaster got a crew cab over here?
Yeah, it's so true. Dude, it is one of those wild things that, and by the way, I'm glad that it's happened. I mean, a crew cab truck is cool. I like a lot of crew cab trucks.
Yeah, I had one. So when I was driving the Ranger, I also got a 2010 Texas Edition 4-wheel drive, fucking the whole thing, Sierra. Did a lot of great things with work on side jobs and stuff, and it was a great truck. Obviously, when I sold it, got downsized or whatever. But when I had it, just like everybody in Texas, like you said last week, you live in the heaven of the big trucks, right in Texas. If it wasn't for work purposes, I couldn't really see myself like why I would have it. But then you like, okay, this is like a luxury kind of like thing for a lot of
Sure.
people in the South.
Hey,
Yeah.
one of the coolest trucks that I've had is I got an F-250 single cab diesel
Ooh.
that somebody was trying to get rid of, and they got into some economic trouble and whatnot. And it was really a great truck. I mean, I bought it to resell it. Just I had needed some things fixed up on it, some paint, some interior stuff. I love driving that truck. Now,
Yeah.
let's be clear. I had no reason to own an F-250 diesel with a Power Stroke like that, But it was a good buy. Guy needed to get rid of it, fixed it up, sold it, made a little bit of money. But I enjoyed that truck, right? And I've had other trucks. I mean, like I told you, I got a bunch of trucks now. My Dodge Ram 1500's a crew cab. My Tundras are crew cabs. Like, hey man, that's what I have, and we have use for them. I mean, the crew cab actually helps my business. So it'd be hard for in my business to be in the single cab world
Sure.
because what we do is we remove the seats of the crew cab and we can store stuff back there. Like we have a shelving system and stuff that we build. And at the end of the day, the crew cab helps me. So again, for anybody that thinks it's like I'm saying I want to go get a Ford Maverick single cab, it really doesn't help my business. But I think it'd be great if you could get a Ford Maverick single cab eventually that's $21,000. I think
No,
that's
totally
that's
agree.
valuable in the market.
Absolutely. I want to try to get to a couple of summarized questions from listeners, Nick, because I know you read them over. So I want to give everybody that took the time to write in some time, some of Nick's time here to respond to them. Real quick, Jason,
It's worth exactly what you've paid, $0.
for now, until we offer premium
Yeah.
content somewhere.
Yeah.
Jason, summarize your summary email here. So Jason owns a 4Runner TRD Pro, and he leased it at let's see, leased a $58,000 2025 Tacoma TRD. Only because it made sense for as a business write-off. He says no mid-sized truck is worth that kind of a money, even with good tech. So what do you think, Nick? Is leasing it under your business a smart way to go about playing the game?
Yeah, sure. I mean, look, for everybody that doesn't own a business, a lease is fully, you can write off a lease fully on your tax returns. So it makes sense from a business. That's why most of my business owners that I know, I mean, hell, they'll lease, Range Rovers, they'll lease F-150s, they'll, lease Tacomas like he's doing. So lease for a business purpose is much different than the average buyer, right? There's a tax implication that's 100% right. It's 100% write off if it's just, something for your business. So he's exactly right. So here's what's interesting. To me, these are the type of people that we see coming into our content more and more, where he goes, I have one, but I know what I paid. It's not worth that.
Right.
But I had a reason to do it. Here's my reason. Exactly right. He didn't care about the $58,000 price tag, A, because he's leasing it. Okay. He just cared about the lease terms, which lease terms fluctuate all the time
Very.
depending on what they want to move, where you live. Remember, we saw like where they were giving away, I think Nissan Leafs or something for
For like a
like
dollar.
a dollar and a half. And
Yeah.
but everybody's like, I want to get one of those, and then it was only in like half a city or
Yeah,
something
it was like
like
a
that.
Colorado, like half of
Yeah.
Colorado.
So at the end of the day, yeah, I enjoy these types of things because there's certainly vehicles you've owned in your life. You're like, yeah, I probably paid too much for this. I don't like this that much, right?
Yeah, like
That's
this
kind
will
of what
never
he's
happen to me
saying. He's
again.
like, yeah, he's like, hey, I got this. It's a business expense. I can tell you it's not worth the 58 grand. I enjoy that type of email comment more than anything because I go, that is what you see when you're sitting down talking to somebody and they tell you about their car and they're actually a car person and they go, yeah, bud, not worth it. Like what I got is not worth it. I kind of like it, but it's not worth it.
I'll
And
live
you,
with it for now.
yeah. I mean, dude, I think that's great. So yeah, he's right. I mean, a lease is a whole different conversation, especially a lease with a business implication.
All right, Dan writes in a little bit of a marketing rant here. Dan says the 200 series LC LX 570 was a steal compared to the Tahoe's Expeditions, bulletproof reliability versus GM's headaches. He blames Toyota's poor marketing and the name changes. J250 called a Land Cruiser for failing the brand in the U.S. Wants V8s back, off-road gear, and better promo.
Yeah, look, the Land Cruiser was tough because, and I see what he's saying. The difference is, I mean, there at times Land Cruiser, the 200 series got up to, being pretty close, if not over a six-figure vehicle. You do limit the buyers of that, but he's exactly right. I mean, LX has always been something that if you got lightly used, you could maybe get a lot of car for what you're paying. And that isn't always true of, Chevy and Tahoe, Expedition, Suburban, those types of things. Sometimes those get out of whack price-wise, and it fluctuates generation, years, that kind of thing, where you're at in the price structure. But I would agree with him. But I'll say this. The days of the V8 are not coming back. That's not the route Toyota's on. That's not the things that people are doing. I wish it were different. You wish it were different. But there are, look, people, for me, I just bought a 2003 LX. I'm a believer in the platforms I'm a believer in, okay? And I think that's what you all need to buy. If you believe in the platform, that's the best reason to buy the vehicle. If you're just like, somebody told me it was cool, that's a bad reason to probably buy.
All right, this is perfect into Jim's dilemma here. Jim has a 2012 LR4 with 154,000 miles, no timing chain work, but most other big issues have been handled. Unsure if he should keep it or invest the $7,000 in chains or sell it in good conscience. Also suggests a good topic: OEM parts that are overpriced due to badges. I actually have some parts stories here to touch on before we land the plane today. But yeah, what should he do? $7,000 on chain work, sell it?
So this is all going to be. And there's a theory that when you get deeper into mileage, that sooner or later you're going to have to answer the question. So he's going to have to do. And by the way, I like that Land Rover, right? Mm-hmm. So that's why he's kept it, because he likes the platform.
Of course.
So now you got to say, I know the devil I'm riding with now. I know my car. I know how I've taken care of it. If you're saying, hey, I'm going to go get a new one that's going to have all these manufacturer guarantees and warranties on it, and I'm going to get more of a peace of mind, and that's what matters, we really can't have a conversation, because that means you should probably get rid of it, right? Mm-hmm. Which is like, you're not going to go back into the used market. You're going to go get something new. You get all kinds of different protections. So that clarification I want to make. If you spend $7,000 on timing change, you're talking about your repair bill is already at $500 a month, or over $500 a month, okay? So the way that you do this equation, and by the way, this doesn't always make sense, because sometimes you just love the vehicle and you're like, I don't care what I have to spend. I'm going to keep this thing going. So that's got to be, I think he's leaning to making the fix.
Mm-hmm. I do too, just by reading it.
Yeah. So look, dude, if you love that vehicle, I wouldn't get rid of it, because most likely you're not going to get anything you love for $500 a month.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great point.
And the next part is, the bugaboos you fixed, how well you've taken care of it, all of these things. There's not very many cars that I've come across, or trucks or SUVs, you're the same, that if they're properly cared for, aren't going to get you to 350,000 miles. That's sort of the fallacy is, I know plenty of people that have Tahoes they've taken care of, they get well over 300,000 miles. Expeditions, F-150s, Silverados, you name it, okay? You can go, Corolla, Camry, all that stuff. So this idea that there's only one car company or two car companies that build cars to go 300,000 miles, that's just not true today, okay? Especially with the modern cars. Let's just say 2005 to 2015, there weren't very many cars that most people bought that you couldn't find a way to put a bunch of mileage on them. It's just a matter of how much money you had to put into each to get them there. So for me, if you love this platform and you've cared for it, I'd be inclined to fix it. I'd be inclined to go ahead and I wouldn't even say fix it. He just needs to do the timing chain, which is a repair you have to do. If you go, hey man, I don't feel like dumping $7,000 into this, I'm sort of done with it, I want something new, then absolutely don't do it. But that's just a mental thing of where you're at. Because if I love a vehicle and it's not like $25,000 to fix it, I'm probably just going to go ahead and do the work I need to do.
Even then, depending on the car, Nick might be weighing it out for a couple of nights. He'll go to sleep like, do I really want to?
Yeah, dude, that's my Ram 1500. I told you this. I'm like, should I just put some money in this thing and go ahead and get some new bumpers?
For weeks, you just going to sleep thinking, bumper's
so
only this.
Stupid. It's got 250,000 miles on it. I'm just like, what should I do? It's like, you know what you should do? You should probably get rid of it.
Yeah. But again, to put a pin in that one, 2012, right? Land Rover. If you think personally that it peaked for you, that brand, that model peaked in that year, I would keep it, right? I've said the same thing about a lot of other, whether it's Volkswagen, Fords, like something peaked for you in that time. And if you can afford to fix it and you want to fix it, fix it. We have two more. We have a Stellantis insider that needed to be anonymous that I want to do a whole longer segment on. So I'm actually going to save that one again for another episode where we're going to talk more Stellantis type news because they're in an interesting predicament as it stands right now.
Yes.
And then we got Bob here. We're going to end with Bob on the question side. Drives an STI, didn't trust a dealership. This was on the piggybacking of you talking about people or shops that need to recommend more maintenance, I think it was, or people that don't heed the warnings.
Preventative stuff, yeah.
Yes. So he didn't trust it. The dealership basically said, there's nothing that needs to be fixed. We're also not going to fix anything that's not broken. The guy said, screw that, went to a local import shop, spent $1,100 for peace of mind, got a ton of things fixed for $1,100. He said, I'm just basically not going to waste my time waiting for things to break.
Yeah, and we've kind of said this. I mean, the whole mechanic business from dealership to local mechanics built on we're going to wait until things break because that's the way everyone's been trained, and that's fine. But for people that love their car, for people that want to be preventative, it's almost like really difficult to find someone to talk to that can walk you through preventatively what to do for your vehicle because they're not trained that way. Their mind doesn't work that way. They're usually not car enthusiasts. They don't understand why you would want to do that. Like, hey, just let everything break and then come get it. It's like, well, if this thing breaks, dude, it's catastrophic. Can we just go ahead and fix it? I mean, that's a lot of BMW talk, just so you know. You own enough BMWs, you go, the cooling system sucks. I need this upgraded. Why? There's nothing wrong with it. It's like, no. But it's like, this could blow up on the freeway, right? Dog. I just need it fixed. Can you just upgrade it?
It's going to break on the freeway, dog. I need you to fix it. All right, so I got a couple of stories here to segue. As much as we like talking about cars, I know that's the business side of parts, cars, dealerships, all that stuff that we also enjoy to kind of read up about. Did you know AAMCO Transmissions is filing bankruptcy?
No, I did not.
Yeah, so there was this large article about companies that have been filing bankruptcy in the automotive world, parts mostly, and they
Recaro is another one that
right, yes. That one's not even in this one, but that is a good one to mention. But I just wanted to get your thoughts on it. Maybe if listeners want to do a little bit of a deep dive on this. Are you a Reds fan again, or is it?
Buddy, I'm a Reds fan.
Reds fan, right? Okay. Hey, sorry. It was either Reds or Guardians.
I mean, we have the most exciting player in the major leagues. I mean, whatever. Ellie De La Cruz, baby.
He's one of them for sure. I am a big Ellie fan. So in honor of the Astros starting their series with the Reds today, AAMCO Transmissions is filing bankruptcy, which they're based out of Cincinnati. I'm just saying. That's why I brought it up.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're filing Chapter 11. I wanted to bring these up because a lot of people, I'm not saying everybody listening, but a lot of people have a very skewed misconception of a lot of people of Chapter 7, Chapter 11, and Chapter 13 bankruptcies, right?
Yep.
So all of these are filing Chapter 11. So it's AAMCO. You have Advanced Auto Parts. You got Wheels Pro, which acquired Hoonigan. Was it Wheels Pro? Yeah, they're the ones that are known as Hoonigan, who also filed. That was in late 24. AccuRide Corp, which is another manufacturer of wheels, also. And then you had, this was an interesting one, Northvolt AB. So they produce a lot of electric vehicle batteries for BMW, Audi, Porsche, Polestar, Volvo, Sweden, also filing Chapter 11. But they wanted to have it dismissed after they filed for bankruptcy liquidation in Sweden. And it's a whole mess with that EV battery company.
Yeah, a lot of times, we need to realize that when people hear bankruptcy, they don't realize that a lot of times it's used as a protection tool. Mm-hmm. To protect them from creditors, get the creditors off their back, go into reorganization, give them time to sell to an investor who's maybe wants to gobble them up. I think one of the interesting parts is, the automotive business is hard to make money in. Mm-hmm. And the reason it's hard to make money in is a lot of these wheel companies, transmission companies, they take on all of these. Like I said, I mean, we just had probably the best body shop I've ever worked with, call me this week and go, I'm done. And I go, oh, you're going to shut it down like in a few weeks? He goes, no, I'm calling you. I've shut it down. I'm done.
Damn.
So when I talk to him, I want people to see it through this lens. It doesn't matter if it's a parts supplier, a body shop, whatever. They see prices, operation costs go up, and they never pass it on because they go, well, if I start to raise prices, nobody's going to buy my stuff, right? So the battery company could have gone through that. The transmission company you brought up could have gone that. The Hoonigan, Wheel Pro, all that could have gone through that. One of the things it shows you is in the car business, if you're not on top of your operating costs, that's what usually causes this to happen the way that it happens and go into reorganization or go into, largely for businesses, it's a protection package. Gives us times, gives us breathing room. Maybe I can save some cash, start talking to creditors, let them know that I'm in a bad spot. So don't take the word bankruptcy like you've heard it from a friend where it's like, I'm in court, I got to settle all this. It's like, no, man, they're really doing it to slow down the failure rate that they're going through a lot of times. Not every time, but 90+%. They're just trying to get themselves reorganized. But, you know, you and I look at it. I mean, I don't know what Wheel Pro's thinking with Hoonigan. I mean, they've lost all of their talent, you know, that was established there. So I think a lot of us were like, hey, I hope this works out. But, you know, Ken Block not being there is a problem. I mean, that was a problem the minute that it occurred, that sad story. But when you look at this, I want people to think about this. The car business seems like it's lucrative, so many companies want to get into it as investors, but you got to be a really high-level operator in most of these little niches of the auto business. Otherwise, you're not going to make it. And it's really hard to be a high-level operator, which is why it makes no sense Recaro went bankrupt.
Yeah.
To us on the outside. On the inside, you probably look at the financials and go, yeah, this wasn't going to work. I mean, once you see the books, you go, yeah, this really isn't a business model. And I'm not saying Recaro wasn't a business. I hope everybody understands what I'm saying. It's like, it's very hard to make money for a long time in the car business. It's very hard.
Yeah, so if you hear stories about this kind of stuff and you're maybe just never really decided to do a deep dive on it or a semi-deep dive, in summary, Nick, Chapter 7 would be if you want to liquidate and sell, pay your debts, you're never going to operate again. 11 would be restructuring.
7's usually a personal thing, not a business thing.
Isn't 13 a personal thing?
Yeah, that's a reorganization, but you still owe the money. So you reorganize how you pay. You come to an agreement where a judge basically, and I'm giving people Cliff Notes the best that I can and I know, is that they then take all of your debts, put them into one, usually get rid of all the late fees and the BS fees, whatever. They boil them down. They say, okay, you have $50,000 in debt. You pay $400 a month, $500, $1,000 a month for this length of time, and then it gets dismissed.
Gotcha.
Chapter 7 is on a personal level. You basically get to wipe away your debts as long as you don't do anything crazy, as long as you don't run up a bunch of debt like going on a cruise or whatever 2 months before you file bankruptcy, all that kind of stuff. But that's getting harder. I mean, Chapter 7 used to be kind of one of those things you just walk into the court and say, I want everything dismissed, and they just stamp it and you'd be out.
It was abused for a long time.
That's not really happening. Most businesses are doing some type of reorganization. And that, you know, again, like for the people that say that Trump filed a bunch of bankruptcies, he was doing reorganizations. I'm not saying it's the most ethical thing all the time. And I don't want to get into every individual case of it because I don't know everybody's situation. But sometimes people use it as a tool in the toolbox of business to kind of free up some capital, allow them to go negotiate some of the bills that they owe. It's really not that big of a deal unless they don't really have a business model, right? Like there's some of this stuff that just doesn't work and they are going to go out of business. And most of the time, if they know they're going to go out of business, they just go out of business and say, good luck. I'm never going to pay the bills I owe.
Dude, it's really interesting. So anyway, I just wanted to leave you guys with that on the bankruptcy stuff. It is ingrained in the Constitution. That is, if the founding fathers thought, you know, you got to take some risks to make, you know, these markets work. So
you can't go to debtor's prison.
Yeah, exactly. You won't go to debtor's prison like you used to in Europe. But again, different show, different topic. But hey, I want to end with a car thing because, you know, we kind of touched on Stellantis. 2026 Jeep Grand Cherokee. Before I even tell anything about it, what are your thoughts on that lineage of vehicle?
Loved them at one point in my life. I think it's been a sad decline of them not understanding where they fit in the market. And I think that's probably Stellantis in a nutshell. Throughout all their brands, they don't understand where any brand sits. I mean, look, it was a middle-class staple. I mean, basically, it was unbelievable, you know, going from the square, boxy, you know, XJ nobody, really thought about. It wasn't, you either loved it or you didn't, to we got a Grand Cherokee and every soccer mom in a middle-class neighborhood for decades seemed to be driving them.
Yeah.
They basically just fell out of favor, I think, because of price and quality. I mean, Jeep Grand Cherokee meant something. I mean, it definitely meant something if you lived in a certain neighborhood where people were making a certain amount of money at a certain time, you were going to see them. Now, I can't tell you a single neighbor of mine, you probably can't, that's like, hey, I just got this new Cherokee, it's so awesome. That sucks because that wasn't, I mean, you remember the gold with the green wheels, or the green with the gold wheels? I mean, dude, when you saw it, you're like, man, that thing is badass. Now
Dude,
you're just
my
like,
dad,
you don't see them.
my dad's got, he just ordered, he goes, I just ordered the rear end stuff for the 92 for the Wrangler, two-door Wrangler. I got to roll that thing out of the shop, started to get, okay, cool. And he's got a square body whatever it was, I guess a Cherokee on top of like blocks where he doesn't want to get rid of it because he's going to go back to that Cherokee and do shit to it. I'm like, all right, man, you're retired, I guess. Do whatever you want. But so we got some teasers here, some teaser photos, not much to write home about, but they tweaked the front end and the cabin. So this is all really what we got. It's a refresh for 26.
Dude, can you imagine sending this picture out that looks like your front end is all chrome when it's not?
Oh my God.
What a great
so
photo.
Terrible. And then here's the interior. I don't know, dude, I haven't looked at the interior of them, but why is there a screen on the passenger side? Tell me, Nick, tell me.
There are reasons to do this. Like if you guys haven't been a C8 Corvette, they set it up like a cockpit so everything's angled to the driver. I could see putting something on the passenger of that because you literally, are trying to have a driver experience, and then if you have somebody, you're in a goddamn Cherokee. What do you need this for? It's so stupid.
Look, the pricing is just here for the 25s just above this picture, 52, 67, 68 for the Cherokee L. I mean,
so here would be me saying where this should be. This should be a 45 to 55 top price. Now you're 52 to 68, right? Let's just, and guys, we're just pulling, you guys need to go to YouTube if you want to see what we're looking at. That again, this is kind of my whole, and by the way, why do they have a Cherokee L if they sell a Wagoneer?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing because I wasn't too familiar with that trim, but I guess that's,
Yeah, it's stupid. It's always been stupid. It's like once you brought Wagoneer, why didn't you knock down the Cherokee L? Why did you keep that? It doesn't make sense to me. And Cherokee could be very easily made great again. I mean, there are easy fixes to this. Like I'll give you an example. I had a customer looking at Cherokees like a year or two ago. The only one they had was the Summit package. I couldn't get anything else for him on a short notice. Okay. I go, hope you love these things because this one's going to be expensive. He's like, yeah, I just need to buy it. I'm buying it. He was buying it as a gift for somebody. And I'm like, he's like, I don't care. And I'm going, so I said to the Jeep dealer, I go, you guys don't have enough. He goes, dude, I got the Summit package. If you want something else, you're going to have to wait. So I can't wait. So, and then you go, hey man, I understand trying these things. And I don't want manufacturers not to try things and do extra packages and cool packages. But when you're melting down your marketplace, you might want to go back to the basics. Just saying. I mean,
dude, I agree with you, and I think that after what I just heard you say, we need to see if we can get people to rally behind a shirt that says "Make Grand Cherokees Great Again." That might help sell.
Well, here's the deal: if you say "Great Again," people are gonna be like, "Oh, who'd you vote for?" It's like, dude, it's a T-shirt.
A lot of people.
A lot of people.
So, real quick on the numbers of this, this was surprising to me because you literally just said you and I both can't point to any neighbors or people we know that have them. But in 23, they sold almost 250,000 units, and it's down it was down in 24, 12%, but still over 216,000 units were sold. That was a much larger number than I thought.
Yeah, and I would always say this: if they would have stayed on the trajectory we were watching, they'd be selling 750 to 800,000 of those by now. Yeah. I mean, that's the crazy part. I mean, it had, for those that weren't there, maybe you were a little too young, the momentum behind Cherokee at one point was a real thing. I mean, it was, and by the way, it wasn't 5 minutes long. I mean, we're talking about, a solid decade and a half when you're like, yeah, these things are kind of badass. And they stayed in the ether. And now it's like, I don't have anybody bringing up a Cherokee to me.
Real quick, as we're landing the plane, I remember, so my mom was upgrading her vehicle. She's had Explorers her entire, like, that's all she's had. From, like, the late 90s, early 2000s to now.
Hey,
Just
did
a
she
new
go? Did she
Explorer.
go Eddie Bauer two-tone?
No. My mother is frugal. She's like, I don't want the leather. Don't give me all this infotainment. Give me the base. She's like base model. I don't give a fuck. I want the nice vehicle that's big.
So you
comfy.
never got the two-tone Explorer, green and brown?
Well, we actually did get the green and
That's
brown.
what I'm saying. I already knew.
It was an XLT. It was an XLT, but it didn't have leather. So whatever. She just liked the color. Everybody liked that color. But when we were shopping for, like, we'll say 2 vehicles ago, my dad loves Jeeps. He's always loved Jeeps. Mom doesn't really like them. So there's a V8 Hemi Grand Cherokee or Cherokee, whatever it was at the time. And we get into it. My dad's excited. It was a pre-owned. Had like 20,000 miles on it. He's like, oh, it was priced really well. Gets in it, turns it on. He goes, this thing sounds like shit. And I
tick, 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 tick.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, he steps on. He's like, whoa, this thing's been rode to hell. I don't want this. He got out of it.
Yeah,
Never
tick,
talked
tick,
about
tick.
a Grand Cherokee again.
Hey, we didn't even talk about the Chevy or the GM answer to the recall. Hey, we're gonna give you a new oil cap.
Yeah. Oh,
give you some different weighted oil.
Oh, how did we not mention this?
Oh, dude, so good. It's like, hey, if your engine's about to blow up, we'll give you an engine. But if not, we're gonna give you this new oil cap, and we're gonna give you some heavier oil.
Maybe change the weight of the oil too. That's supposed to kind of help, allegedly. Like, bro, we'll talk about this again next week. Listen, if you guys are interested in watching Nick work on his BMW, when this drops the same day, he's doing a rinseless waterless on his M3 on the HyperClean Store channel.
Yeah.
Other than that, leave a review on the show. We've gotten a lot of them on Apple. We had a lot of them in April. Now we're in May. So leave us a review and ratings on Apple, Spotify. Give it a 5-star. We're climbing our way back up there because Nick pissed a lot of people off on Spotify. I don't know why. But
Spotify listeners.
Yeah, clutchculturepodcast@gmail.com if you want us to read one of your summarized emails. Make it as long as you want. They were really interesting to read.
Yeah,
Love hearing
very.
the feedback. But until then, we'll see you next week, Nick.
All right, guys.
See ya.